my name is T and you're watching Let's Take a Look. In this video, we're going to be talking about simplifying fractions. So let's get straight to it. Simplifying a fraction means rewriting the fraction in a smaller form, meaning taking the smallest top and bottom numbers we can without changing the value of the fraction. Let's start with example 1. Here we have 3/6. This rectangle is split into 6 parts. So let's shade in 3 parts to visualize what 3/6 can look like. Here we have 3 parts that are taken away and 3 parts that are left. This rectangle shows us that this is equivalent to 1/2. So we can see the picture version of it. But what about the mathematical version? Well, that's exactly what I'll show you. 3/6 we need to split into each of their prime numbers. 3 is already a prime number, meaning its prime factors are 1 and itself. So we can write it like this. Now 6's prime factors can be 2 times 3. We know that 2 times 3 is 6, and both 2 and 3 are both prime factors. Now, here this fraction almost looks like 1/2 times 3/3. We know from fractions that 3/3 is equivalent to 1 whole, and anything times 1 whole is equal to itself. In math, we would call it as cutting each other out. This 3 would take away this 3, so meaning we can cut both of these out. And see? We can already see that our 1/2 is alone. That means 3/6 is equal to 1/2. Pretty simple, right? That's correct. Now, let's move on to example 2. But let me warn you, example 2 might just be a little harder. If we have the fraction 40/64, we know that both of these numbers are larger than the numbers we used in example 1, meaning its factors are going to be a lot more. And to figure out the prime factors, we might have to remultiply a few numbers. Let's start with 40. We can have 5 times 8 as 40's factors for now. We know that 5 is a prime number, so we can take its prime factors and put those in instead. 5's prime factors are 1 and 5, 1 in itself. So there's going to be no use in taking it and substituting. But 8, on the other hand, isn't a prime factor. So meaning we can remultiply a few numbers to get to 8. We know that 2 times 4 can easily give us 8. And we also know that 2 is a prime number. So it can be really easy now. But what about 4? 4 isn't a prime number. Let's remultiply that one as well. 2 times 2 can give us 4. So we can substitute in 2 times 2 instead of 4 there. Let's rewrite this to make it look a little simpler. We took our 8 times this by 2. We can't add our 4, so we add our 2 times 2 in instead. Let's double check it just to make sure. 5 times 2 we know is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. And 20 times 2 is 40. So we know that our answer here will be 40, and that's correct. Now let's move on to 64. We can have 8 times 8 as 64's factors, but what about our prime factors? We know from our last example that 8 is not a prime factor. So we can substitute in 2 times 4 instead. But we also know from our last example that 4 is also not a prime number. So we can factorize 4 as well. If we factorize 4 into 2 times 2 as well. Okay, now it's time for the other 8. We'll do the same procedure with the other 8. 2 times 4, 2 times 4, and we know 4 can't work, so 2 times 2. Pretty simple, right? Now let's rewrite it. we can have our 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That was long. Now, let's double check just to make sure. 2 times 2 we know is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. And 32 times 2 is 64. That was pretty simple, huh? Now that we know both of our answers are correct, let's simplify this equation. We talked about whole factors, common factors. Here we have 3 2's and here we have 6. Does that mean we can cancel out all 6 beneath and all 3 on top? No. We have to cancel them out as pairs. So let's make the pairs. This 2 can cancel this 2 out. This 2 can cancel this 2 out. And this 2 can cancel this 2 out. Meaning we're left with an equation that's 5 over 2 times 2 times 2. Now all we have to do is figure out what this answer will be, and we know what our simplified fraction is. If we take all of this away so it's easier to look at, 2 times 2 we know is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8, meaning we can simplify our bottom number into 8. 5 over 8 is equivalent to 40 over 64. Now, to review the procedure, our first step is to replace the top and bottom numbers of the fraction with their prime factors. Our second step is to look to see if any of the factors are the same on the top and bottom. If they are, we call them common factors. Because there's something that both the top and bottom that have in common, you find a pair and you can cancel them out. The third step and the last step is once all the common factors have been cancelled, you remultiply the factors that are left over on the top and bottom. After your remultiplication, you find your simplified version of your fraction. Well, thank you for watching Let's Take a Look, and see you next time. And remember to like and subscribe.